bring us the king.
What is a revolution? What compels the downtrodden souls of a land to unite and rise up to topple the pillars of a society that has been in place for generations before them? To denounce the actions of those in power and take a stand against the morally bankrupt, without fear of violence, physical or fiscal repercussions. To stare in the face of the enemy and see a puppet in return. Follow the strings up and you'll see the politicians cowardly playing with their subjects, able to just reset when the outcome doesn't favor them. But for us, the playthings in question, we don't get that luxury. We either prosper or perish. France, 1832. Paris is in the midst of an uprising against monarch King Louis-Philippe I, who had just come to power 2 years prior during the July Revolution. The crown had bounced around a bit after the French Revolution in 1789. Yeah, France loves a revolution, there's a bunch. But as King Charles X felt time on his reign running thin, posturing his rule by trying to revert France back to pre-revolution times, certainly not a welcome idea to French residents, he abdicated the throne, passing his mess on to his son, now King Louis XIX. And as a great philosopher once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Louis took the crown and sat upon his throne, hearing the murmured roars of the protesting French people, and decided, nah, I'm good. He too gave up the crown. It took 20 minutes. It's perhaps my favorite 20 minutes in history. In less time than I get for a lunch break, Louis tasted an almost unending level of power, and came to the conclusion that he was unable to rule, whether by fear of failing, incompetence, or what the French would do to him once he slipped up. But that's perhaps the greatest decision he could have made. Philippe had reinstated the monarchy, and with his poor handling of the cholera epidemic and economic woes, left the people of France, having been betrayed by their supposed leader, to take to the streets and mourn the loss of General Jean-Maximilien Lamarck. Protesters redirected the procession to Place de la Bastille, where the revolution began over 40 years prior. There, a single red flag waves. The phrase "La liberté ou la mort," liberty or death, waves in the wind. Speeches turned to hurling insults, which turned to hurling stones, bricks, and eventually chaos. Gunfire. Word spread fast, and soon tens of thousands of French National Guard clear out the protesters. This took just over 24 hours, but the damage had been done. King Louis-Philippe I was the penultimate monarch of France, lasting until 1848 when he was finally overthrown. A member of that crowd was a fairly young writer, Victor Hugo, who had released a story the year prior which created some buzz in Paris, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And as he sat writing his next piece, he heard the commotion of the battle and decided to head over. And as he wandered further into the beast of war, dodging bullets from each side, he took note of the revolution. If something this painful, something over so quickly could be called as such. In 1862, Hugo would publish Les Miserables, depicting the years leading up to the rebellion, taking some artistic liberties here and there. In truth, there was no Jean Valjean or Javert. It doesn't adhere to the day's events exactly, but if not for this piece of literature, this day could have gone down as just another in a long history of bloodshed on Earth. Revolutions are not some newfound tactic for the disenfranchised to get a sudden change in government. We can draw this back to the most ancient civilizations some 4,000 years ago. Mexico, Ireland, Haiti, Russia. Revolution is human nature. It's in our blood. Wherever there's a ruling class, someone is left to suffer. Often in silence, but never alone. The togetherness, the community built in the shadows of the not-so-invisible hand of the rulers, knows no bounds. Revolutionaries, activists, and artists, no matter the medium, all it takes is for someone to look around and ask, how the hell did we get here? I said earlier that Louis XIX's reign as king was perhaps my favorite 20 minutes in history. A close second to that would probably be the average South Park episode. Often maligned for lowbrow humor, and then praised for the exact opposite, depending on who you ask. Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and their team managed to create a succinct story around the latest current events, and wrap it up within that 20-minute timer. Give or take. Never afraid to take a jab at people of power, religious deities, corporations, or world leaders alike. So it should come as no shock that they would of course parody the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Now, given that recent seasons are almost entirely comprised of Trump shenanigans, you could be forgiven that forgetting his first ever appearance came in the 11th episode of Season 5, The Entity. This episode came out in November of 2001, long before old Donnie here turned politician. Hell, even before he turned television personality. Well, he was in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air already, but this was before his time in the WWE. At the time, he was just the run-of-the-mill blank check, just perfect for Mr. Garrison to pitch his new invention. Mr. Garrison isn't important in this grand scheme. He's just the teacher of the 4 main boys. He's also one of like 3 gay guys in town. This first appearance is pretty tame given everything that we know now. He doesn't even get a line of dialogue. But it would take over 13 years for Trump to get another appearance, and it's just as absurd as before. If you want to do your own research, you can Google Donald Trump 13 for more. In the second episode of Season 19, Where My Country Gone, we open with our old pal Mr. Garrison complaining that everyone's too tolerant and too many immigrants are crossing the border. Probably not what you were thinking. They're Canadians. He uses this vitriol to alter his lesson plan, explaining how Rome fell once the Goths were let in. Yeah, that's it. Definitely not the economic instability of an empire spanning so far the sun never sets, and civil wars aplenty. The Canadian kids in class do their 8 AM ritual of playing some Chuck Mangione, and Garrison lashes out and calls them Canucks. Questionable if that's even cool for me to say. Seems like it could be both an affectionate and insulting term. In Garrison's case, definitely straying more towards a slur. So, he gets written up and has to see PC Principal, politically correct principal. Don't worry about him too much. He's kind of like a parody of woke culture and the white saviors in human form. He sends him to Canadian language night classes, kicking off Garrison's Disney Princess I Want song, and what he wants is no more immigrants. Right. But it works. He starts building a following. People are listening. He even hijacks the school's assembly.
Well, there's only one immigration policy that I believe in, and that's f*** them all to death.
Oh, I think I see where this is going. Yeah, the hat kind of gives it away. But then, something remarkable occurs. Do you remember when Donald Trump said he would build a wall to keep Mexico out? Which, of course, never happened. Here, Canada is way ahead of Garrison. And why is that? And why is there a sudden influx of Canadians fleeing their homeland?
There were several candidates during the Canadian elections. One of them was this brash asshole who just spoke his mind. He didn't really offer any solutions, he just said outrageous things. We thought it was funny. Nobody really thought he'd ever be president. It was a joke. But we just let the joke go on for too long.
Oh, I see what's happening here. Garrison crosses the border into Canada and meets with the Prime Minister, immediately getting into a fight, and he, does what he said he would do. With the support of the town, Garrison heads to Washington with his running mate, Caitlyn Jenner. Oh god, oh fuck, she's behind the wheel, look out. Garrison goes fully down the Trump route, as we see the campaign and election in Season 20, and the first term in the following 4 seasons. It's all about what you would expect for the most part. There's some good bits here and there.
I think they called it German collective guilt, right? Where even the Germans who just did nothing while Hitler rose to power were maybe somehow also responsible?
Oh, that wasn't even about Garrison. How'd that get in here? After his term, Garrison returns to his old life, for the most part, even settling down with a guy named Rick instead of running for re-election. People storm the Capitol to declare their love for Garrison and Rick's love. Huh, wonder where they got this IRL footage from. The town storms into his home to berate him for being re-elected, but he's just sitting at home. But wait, if Garrison's not in office, who the hell is this? Oh no. No. Season 27 begins by putting religion back in schools. Like, literally, it's Jesus. This causes a full shift. PC Principal is no longer politically correct. He's a power Christian principal. You can call him PC Principal. He's a good litmus test for American society as a whole, as we've seen a general shift from politically correct values reverting back to the ways of old. Woke is officially dead, and there's only one man to blame. Here we see the new Donald Trump, a flappy talking head cutout much like that of Saddam Hussein of seasons past. As he runs around throwing tantrums in the White House over his small appendage, yeah, we've reached some real poignant commentary here. He hops in bed with Satan, who's probably my favorite side character in the franchise, but that's largely beside the point. Yeah, we've seen this play out before. With that same dictator from Iraq, actually. Satan says that someone commented that Donald Trump was on the Epstein list, which, of course, Donnie laughs off. I mean, that'd just be silly, right? Trump is suing South Park, the town, and also Jesus. That's why he's in town. They managed to settle for just $3.5 million, but they also have to do some pro-Trump messaging. So get ready, South Park is changing. We cut to the desert, and we see the man of the hour aimlessly wandering around, delirious. And that's about the last part of this that I can actually show. Needless to say, it's a solid shot at Trump. Mr. Mackey, the school counselor, gets fired, and is scrambling for a job. So where do jobless losers turn to make a quick buck no matter what? No, Cartman's the podcaster, actually. Ooh, uh-oh.
Are you looking for a new career? Why not join the ICE?
Hey, they actually managed to make Kristi Noem not totally ghoulish. And just like that, Mackey's a part of ICE. In reality, it takes a little bit longer. It's like 6 to 8 weeks, and then you could legally kill citizens in the streets. Wow, how cool. As the raids ravage the streets, and Heaven, too. Mackie continuously apologizes for his actions, saying he's just doing this for the cash. Something that the cowards hiding behind their masks in real life are too afraid to admit. We're looking at the modern Gestapo. Or is this just the real America? I mean, who did the German fascists mold their new reality off of again? Oh, right. These bumbling idiots are tearing families apart, traumatizing children, causing havoc in once peaceful neighborhoods. And they're targeting citizens. Doesn't matter what their status is. If they're anything but white, they're being accosted by these federal freaks. Show any pushback and you will be dealt with calmly. Alex Preddy, Keith Porter, Renee Good. In cold blood. These are not police or SEALs or anything of the sort. These are white supremacists hiding behind their masks and targeting grandmothers, harassing children, and shooting Americans. Federal agents threatening the public's free speech. The president threatening the public's free speech. They're creating new concentration camps and giving it a fun name. Look, they even have merch. This is the darkest timeline. Or so we thought. And they're all getting paid for destroying America. $40,000 bonuses for murdering civilians. They're stalking us home from the store, worried we're delivering food to their next targets. Unmarked cars, no badges. Hiding behind the same mask they were too stubborn to wear not even 5 years ago. 5 years, huh? That's how long it'll take for these ICE agents to actually get their bonus. At current rate, they'll never see a dime. ICE will evaporate by the next vote, assuming the Democrats actually get it together enough to make the easiest slam dunk vote. A low bar, for sure, but I've not been filled with hope recently. These masked marauders will have their faces plastered across the country. They will be brought up on charges. And this better make Nuremberg look like a fucking tea party. After that, the rest of the season seems relatively inconsequential. Mar-a-Lago parties, not those kind, at least that we see. A parody of the Fox News cycle, and people surrounding Trump constantly lying and saying what they think he wants to hear. Nothing new here. Oh, Satan is pregnant with Trump's baby, so he tries every cartoonish method to terminate the pregnancy. That's fine. Season 28 introduces a new character, Peter Thiel, to investigate reports of a demonic cult surrounding the number 67, so he'll need all the personal data of the kids and security camera footage. Let's talk about Peter Thiel for a second here. Peter Thiel is one of those tech guru guys who uses his wealth to influence the double-digit IQ guys getting into politics through online media. See, here he is on Rogan. Originally a co-founder of PayPal, his new company, Palantir, works with ICE, the CIA, FBI, NSA, and the greater techno-military industrial complex to provide them with the most expansive surveillance system to ever exist. Operated with little to no overhead while creating these AI-driven autonomous weapons of mass destruction, whose algorithms are still a mystery. A picture-perfect Bond villain through and through. Hey, Pam Bondi's here. Oh, she has something on her nose. Actually, everyone that's around Trump kinda does. I mean, that's how they got there in the first place, and how they remain there. Wait, who's this little dweeb? Oh, right. JD Vance is somehow one of the more pathetic vultures surrounding the walking corpse that is Donald Trump. Perhaps our first terminally online vice president, we can easily trace his digital footprint back to when he was a teen. This will be a more common hurdle for millennials and Gen Zers here coming up, but that'll play out in due course. I take solace in knowing that JD Vance sees every single post about him, every time someone dunks on him. I don't even know if I actually know what he looks like. In my head, he looks exactly like those big head pictures with the spinny hat and the large lollipop. Every time he's released from his enclosure, it seems like a humiliation ritual, but it's in venial pursuit of power. There's no moral compass behind these empty, soulless eyes. If he happens to ascend to the throne, he's no less dangerous than Donald Trump. I mean, they're both puppets, but one has an expiration date much longer than the other. Oh, and he fucked Trump. In South Park. Trump and Satan's spawn, the Antichrist, is supposed to be born around Christmas time. Aw, it hanged itself. See, here's the footage. Alright, don't mind the part that's missing. That's probably nothing. Definitely doesn't parallel a certain friend of the president who might or might not be alive and is responsible for the largest file ring in history. With the rollout of the Epstein files, we can finally sort through each of them and figure out who was doing what on that island. And none of it is good. The Department of Justice was just sitting on this stuff. Terabytes upon terabytes of depravity to the highest degree. Used not as memories to share and reminisce, but as blackmail. Blackmail from Israel, Russia, and the UK. And for what? To sell out and add some more zeros to their infinite bankroll?
You still don't get it, do you, boys? There ain't no countries anymore. No more good guys. They're running the whole show. They own everything, the whole goddamn planet. They can do whatever they want. We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team.
It's all starting to make sense how these elites had no remorse for the rising body counts and denied the genocide in Gaza. Yet, I can't think of a more fitting way for the American empire to fall. Dancing to the whistle of the monster pulling the strings, as this ghost haunts administrations and royal houses alike. The release of these files should have brought the world to a halt. And yet, here we are. Days go by. As if it's not absolutely insane that the government of the United States, and government bodies around the world, commit such atrocities to children. We already knew about the bombs and stuff. That's but a mere footnote in the grand scheme. It's unfortunately expected. The people in these documents won't be dealt with. Not sufficiently, at least. Surely they've all signed non-prosecution agreements and paid out their settlements. And to call this a slap on the wrist would be greatly overstating the minuscule punishment received. And it's almost impossible to overstate exactly how little will change. Nothing will change if you swap your vote to the other party, promising that same eye-catching rhetoric that we've heard ad nauseum for the last 200 years. Turns out, none of that mattered to begin with. And we've been picking sides in a fight that neither side started, and neither side was gonna win. We played right into their hand, played into their simulation. We did the little dance and appeased the rulers. But now's not the time to be all doom and gloom. Already having the mindset that nothing ever happens holds us liable to spreading the demoralization propaganda. And that's exactly what they want. Complacency through cynicism is how Westerners, mainly Americans, justify staying in our bubble and living our cozy lives. We just want to keep buying useless stuff and partying on the weekends. So we assuage the guilt of complicity in the system. We make memes of people with Epstein, or kirkify anyone and everyone. It makes the tough times feel easier. If these monsters surrounding Epstein go free, we are the ones at fault. We will eventually learn the names of the redacted. We know where they stay. We greatly outnumber them. Numbers, when used intelligently, outweigh the force of evil. Harlem, 1957. The NYPD brutally attack a man and bring him back to the station, where he would likely die soon after. Friends, family, and a few onlookers plead for a safe release, to no avail. Malcolm X arrives at the station with a few thousand friends, and surrounds it. And soon after, the man is released to the hospital, and the crowd disperses. A small moment. A footnote in history. To save one life. So what will we do to save thousands? To save women and children? To save ourselves? Whatever comes in the wake of these files isn't good enough. It's tough to accept that Epstein was the kingpin here. The story concluded too easily. Was he just the patsy, the fall guy, the face of the brand, so to speak? Time will only tell. This was a well-oiled machine. The masterminds are still out there, moving in the shadows or moving in plain sight. New Year's Day 2026. Huh, wonder what all these super yachts are doing in St. Bart's. That's weird. Let's just take a look at the map here. Oh, okay, so we're near the US Virgin Islands, and here is Little St. James, now colloquially known as Epstein Island. Right. America is in a sad state. The mentality of a nation constantly beat down and oppressed, that the repairs, if they even come at all, will take lifetimes, plural, to correct the actions of a small few elites. And what is the grand plan? Okay guys, we're scheduling a walkout, don't go to work or school, that'll show them. If I hear another leftist preach about registering to vote, I'm gonna lose my mind. And don't even get me started about the MAGA cult. A nation full of people who will cry over a burnt flag but turn the other way at scorched villages in a country they can't pronounce. Not because it's hard, because they don't care to learn, and they can't read. The government openly lies. The media manipulates you. The corruption is deep-seated. The Founding Fathers at least had the foresight to see that a tyrant would use their powers for absolute evil, and to act as if they're above the law. They just never thought it'd be the whole damn thing. So, do we stay a nation divided, fighting amongst ourselves? When do we realize that this is larger than left versus right, or white versus black? It is us, the people, the many, the workers, versus the few, wealthy, powerful parasites. When do we raise the red flag? La liberté ou la mort? Is it too late? Should we just get the hell out of Dodge? Do we run to a new place and create the same problems for people over there? We tried that one before, and here we are now. The era of the US lecturing foreign countries on moral superiority is over. Long overdue in the first place. Did the world end in 2020 and we were none the wiser? Would we even notice? Did we enter a new simulation, or is the old one cracking, revealing the real world underneath? Everything just seems too much. It's overwhelming. An overwhelming sadness, growing disdain, vitriol. Vitriol not just for current administrations, nor dating back to the Reagan era, or even the Founding Fathers. Millions of years of evolution has brought us as humans to be the most advanced beings on Earth. Supposedly. And America is supposed to be this untouchable superpower that the world turns to as a beacon of hope, the blueprint of society. But as things theoretically get better, I can't help but get this feeling of, I gotta get the hell out of here. I take a look around me, living in Los Angeles. Not the glitz and glam of Hollywood influencer life, but the real LA. Cars long abandoned by the owners, but not by inhabitants. Empty and decrepit buildings directly adjacent to people living on the streets. Frozen. Not just frozen posturally, a result of being on God knows what to get the hell out of here, mentally, if even temporarily. But frozen in time, forgotten by the world surrounding them, enveloping them, chewed up and spit out by the system over and over and over. And I take a second to look. Not out of pity, spectacle, or intrigue, but of melancholic gratitude. That could easily be me. I'm fortunate enough to have a roof over my head. I scrounge around to feed myself often enough. All things considered, it's a good enough life. But when did good enough become acceptable to me? And why is that good enough answer slowly morphing into, how the hell did I get here? Well, the decision tree spans back much further than anything I or the generations before me can even take credit for. Migration is intrinsic to the human code. As a product of one of the millions who came through Ellis Island, I can kind of trace the steps back on how I, as a member of my family, got here. But not me as a human. That dates back some 400 million years ago, to the first great migration of the Devonian period. Humans, me, and presumably you, started as a single cell just floating in the ocean, eventually evolving into the first fish-type creature. And as more and more different species came about, and the ocean suddenly became more crowded, the fish looked around and decided that this wasn't good enough. So it took to land, evolving into a new species entirely. And as they found the need to evolve to their new surroundings, they grow fur, feet, spines, everything needed to sustain life. We eventually end up with monkeys. And these two evolved into early humans, who took a good look around them at their surroundings and decided this wasn't good enough for them. I gotta get out of here. And so they did. Animals have this innate characteristic to find their place in the world wherever they can thrive. Birds migrate south every winter, ending up in the same exact place more or less as if they punched their coordinates into their GPS. Loaded up the family for this year's vacation road trip, they had to take extra shifts and trade in the brand name for the store brand just to afford. Just instead of loading into the family van on its last legs, they fly in formation, a distinct V shape, telling them, and us humans watching from below, where they're headed. It's out of necessity, out of fear. Fear of the harsh winter, depletion of food, the loss of those close to them. Fear is instinctual in animals, processed in our brains just as it did for the Homo erectus and the fish creatures before us. Fight or flight, get rich or die trying. And I don't know if you've kept up with current events or not, but everyone's kinda losing their minds. World leaders with their blood-soaked hands hovering over that nuclear doomsday button, itching for the slightest motive to press it. The world's on fire, the air's full of pollutants. We haven't seen the sun for some time, but we feel it. Glaciers billions of years old are melting before our very eyes. Oceans are rising and full of trash. It's 90 degrees in January and there's microplastics in our brains. The old factory shut down right after the mine did, so now what am I supposed to do for work? So I look around and take stock of my resources and think, okay, how do I get out of here? I don't have the money to physically do it, so I turn to the escapism of the internet. Luckily for me, some of our most brilliant minds have crafted the perfect place for people like me. Upset at the world, but no power to do anything about it. A reality where nothing is real at all. Using their billion-dollar machines to make me see what they want me to see, and only that. To the point the anxiety of not knowing what's real and what's not supersedes whatever I came here to forget about in the first place. What was that again? Out of touch from reality, we're just alone in the open ocean like the organism we evolved from. We can't see the coast. Just water as far as the eye can see. We can tread water, but only for so long. We're desperate for something to cling on to. Something to save us from the impending doom of death. Knowing we've confidently gotten ourselves into this mess, but not having the confidence to get ourselves out. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, a man extends his hand to you and pulls you aboard a ship. Not a waterbound craft, but something more. The man, with an accent you can't quite place, surely an amalgamation of his life's journey, offers you not just temporary refuge, but a new lease on life. A life not of this world, but a virtual utopia. You're still as incensed as before, but at least in this world, you don't have that cloud of uncertainty looming over you. And it feels free. So much so that you want to stay here forever, protected in this little bubble from the dangers surrounding you. You can see them, but they don't affect you. Until you've lived so long in this new world that it feels more real than your old one ever did. And then this becomes normal. You've migrated to an entirely new existence without even noticing it. Much like how frogs never notice the water start to boil until it's too late. This isn't reality, it's anything but. It's a carefully curated world where you're the main character of the story, and the ending is whatever you want it to be. There are countless visionaries with outlandish dreams of how we can migrate to the next plane of existence, but few ever sniff a fraction of the wealth needed to pull off such a feat. For centuries, wealthy, and therefore influential people, initiated their own migration to craft a bigger and better life, bringing their own people in and kicking out prior residents of their newly pillaged land to serve their own purpose, until the cycle repeats. It's never enough. Someone we've seen take advantage of this like no other, is the man who extended his hand out to you at your lowest point. The ruler of his own society. His underlings call him the Techno King. He made up his own title. And that man is Elon Musk. Elon never quite fit in. Product of constant harassment from his peers and a tumultuous relationship with his father. When Elon was beaten down, his father continued the cycle that his father and his father before him instilled. Belittling his son to try and build up his character, build a macho, manly son, build his own reality. Elon internalized this fear and concluded that the world is a scary place for someone different like him, and he needed to get out of here. After decades of dubiously building his resume, co-founder of PayPal, oh hey Peter, even though Elon merged with them in 2000, and no doubt with help from the family emerald mine, taking advantage of poor Zambian workers, Musk eventually built a staggering amount of wealth, enough to fund his venture to create his own reality, to cope with never being good enough for his father, trying to leave Earth altogether and start a Mars colony. And even that's not an original idea. Hey look, here he is in South Park, promising the same escape to Butters, Cartman, and Heidi, and never pulling through. He's too busy right now. The first one should be up and running by 2025. Needless to say, we're a little bit behind schedule, and that's a part of human nature. Overly ambitious without the ability to back it up. All bark and no bite. The physical bite hurts temporarily. Wounds and bruises of bullies heal over time. But the words they utter while beating you to a pulp stick with you, the real scars, ingraining themselves into your brain until that's all you know, and all you see yourself as. So, the only way out? Create your new reality. Elon's Mars mission is a way to free himself from this Earth, to migrate to a place where he can start a life anew and kick out whatever inhabitants may or may not be out there. All of this bullshit here, these trillion-dollar hunks of metal blasting into orbit, it's all a coping mechanism that maybe he can get the hell out of here, leave this Earth that terrifies him. He still feels as if he's being bullied when everyone online calls him the biggest loser alive. And when everyone does that, he just buys Twitter and tells everyone that those were all just bots, and then floods the platform with actual bots that provide no substance to the conversation, just another number. Because that's all we are. He creates this virtual reality and then pretends as if it's the actual reality. He can afford to get into his own little bubble, hell, even upgrade it to a submarine to further protect himself. But once the cracks start to show, the walls come caving in on him. He so desperately wants to be seen as a winner, but also someone relatable. But when he tries, it fails. He wants to be this funny, epic meme god, but he's so painfully unfunny that it almost circles around to being funny. Almost. He wants to be known as a gamer, but he sucks at games. People roast his character builds, his gameplays, and infiltrate his lobbies to remind him of reality. Not his own utopia, but of real life. He so desperately wants to be the hero of his own story that he's turned into a caricature of his former self. Someone once seen as the savior of lost souls has had the veil pulled back, and revealed that he's no different from the rest of the Techno Kings offering salvation. Thinking back on the day that he pulled you in, that outstretched hand was just as bloody as the rest of them. He's weaseled his way into seemingly every aspect of life. An inescapable presence that ominously looms, just looking for the right moment to strike. Except it's never as subtle or sparse as someone like him should be. It's choreographed and telegraphed from a mile away. You see the cogs turning, searching for the next epic meme moment, but his body can't keep up and goes into hyperdrive, something he's been trying to get his rockets to do for some time now. But his body is only capable of so much. He's no LeBron James or Xenomorph, not some perfect specimen built for athletic feats. He looks like this. Barrel-chested, lumpy, and frail. Still that scrawny little boy masquerading as a grown adult, and we see right through it. His hyperdrive results in these odd little hops on stage, much like the jesters of old would do upon the command of their kings. The Techno King is but a mere Technojester in reality. The Jester Act worked though. He appeased his king and was rewarded, pretty handsomely. He somehow got his way into the American government, cut funding from programs to try and get SpaceX some more money so he could get out quicker. Until his appeal, or in reality, his money, was not of use anymore and his king doomed him to the pit of despair and left him behind. Now in an endless spiral, he watches as his dream of life on Mars falls further and further away. And as the system chews him up and spits him out, where does he land? Well, with our friends from earlier, frozen. An alleged dependency on ketamine is his new temporary escapism, another venture to create a new world, if even for the moment. Something that those around him can attest to, but don't take it from me, take it from one of his ex-wives. She knows more about him than even the most parasocial freaks, colloquially known as glazers, you'll ever find online.
We create a parallel world to escape the world that rejects us, or the world that we find too painful to live in. But some people are so good at doing this and master such an amazing skill set that they take their world and they infuse it into our world. and they change the world. And these are the people we call visionaries. You know, people who move between worlds, between states of consciousness.
He's an expert on creating a new reality for himself, a different plane of existence to those around him. He grew up in South Africa, a country of white European immigrants who got the idea of getting out of here and heading to Africa, invading their land and then deciding that they didn't want to share this land with black people anymore. So they created this new reality where God said that they had to preserve the white race and segregate all the black people to another part of town. I mean, if God said it, how could they argue? We call this apartheid. And like a good Christian would, they cherry-pick certain passages that they could pass off as saying, see look, God said right here, apartheid is good. It's biblical fear-mongering. Welcome to the church. Every Bible verse used in defense of injustice is not only antiquated, but inherently misguided. You're supposed to look after your fellow man, not look down upon them. Unless you're playing God. Looking down upon those from the skies in your little rocket. Or looking down into the mines as malnourished men, women, and children eagerly hunt for the next gem to please their God. Or, in reality, their master. Elon's created this reality where he's a god amongst men, but he's still seen as a turbo loser. His new reality is so far-fetched that he can't get enough people on board to keep his influence growing. He soon will be lost to time, looking around at his Martian empire that has since outgrown him, and think to himself, how the hell do I get out of here? You try and put a lighthearted podcast on to find some escapism, but all those same figureheads ruining your life have infiltrated those spaces as well. CIA, FBI, President's Cabinet, what the hell do they know about comedy? Nothing. They feign relatability through terrible attempts at humor to give the common man the idea that we're not so different after all. This works on a very certain part of the population. Double-digit IQs that adhere to the mantra that good things happen to good people, then turning around and saying some of the most detestable garbage, in order to preserve whatever new reality of the world that they've crafted for themselves. And if that upsets you, you're probably a part of that group, and the very thought of being called out on it threatens to topple the load-bearing pillar of your world over, crushing you along with it. As the cracks form, your self-preservation kicks in, and you patch up the little holes as best as you can with the finest duct tape on hand. Because, in a moment's notice, your virtual world turns to dust, and you're drugged back to the real world that has moved on without you. You weren't living in the future, you were stuck in the past, frozen in time. The brain is the most interesting organ. So many chemicals that with the slightest tweak in the formula can alter the entire system, almost like a poison invading the well. Dissociative identity disorder, depersonalization derealization disorder, schizophrenia, and the like can make reality whatever it wants to be, as detached as it needs to be. And when those pillars start to crumble, and the very real horrors of the world peek through, it creates a sense of existential dread. But there's not a sudden psychosis crisis. There's a crisis of illiteracy. In an era of political confusion and turmoil, guys who couldn't even find true north on a compass are suddenly the moral compass of right and wrong, good and evil, regurgitating whatever talking points they heard on their buddy's podcast because they couldn't do a minute of fact-checking research. They don't even know how to read, whether out of laziness or pure ineptitude, or spite. Taking graphs and manipulating them to say whatever they need to fit their agenda. I mean, numbers never lie, right? And these goofballs become father figures to kids who are lost just like they were at their age, and the cycle repeats. Their omnipotent knowledge of the world that they only unlocked after dropping the woke stuff, and maybe a DMT ayahuasca-infused trip mixed in that unlocked their third eye. And that's how we've got the modern, terminally online alt-right, fear-mongering to the highest extent. The Earth is failing, and God sent them here to spread the word of whatever policy they're pushing. How it's any different from the Jim Jones and Marshall Applewhites of the world, I can't really tell. Podcasts weren't around for those guys. Instead, they had long, uninterrupted broadcasts of a constant stream of pseudo-scientific verbiage that quickly devolves into temporal lobe diarrhea that's not even close to being on the topic they began with. So, a podcast. But it doesn't matter if you don't sip the Kool-Aid, because your neighbor already did. Gave a sip to his wife, one to each of his children, who will keep the family recipe for generations. The cycle remains. Jones settled in a remote part of Guyana, creating his own world in which he was considered their king, their direct line of communication to God. Applewhite promised his disciples a first-class ticket off this earth, and onto a spaceship to take them to a passing comet to hitch a ride out of here. We know how things ended for them. How long until we know how it ends for the next wave? They cry about snowflakes or people of color ruining America, and cry and cry and cry. The victim complex is interesting to see. These white guys role-playing as brave freedom fighters, victims of a censorship they deem woke and unconstitutional. They just want to call you the R-word again. Which, not illegal, people just kind of look at you funny. And that's their biggest fear. Being perceived as anything but the perfect specimen, the xenomorph, the savior of the lost. But they act as victims of oppression to seem heroic in their circle. Like, wow, you did a 2-hour podcast complaining about woke? You're fighting the good fight, brother. Keep it up. They so desperately want to be modern-day revolutionaries, but severely lack the charisma and intelligence of actual revolutionaries like the Martin Luther Kings, Malcolm X's, and Fred Hamptons of America's past. Great men taken out by the people who are infiltrating these same podcast spaces to warn listeners of an uprising, a direct threat to their reality. That reality was handcrafted by none other than Jeffrey Epstein himself. As a result of the files being released, we've now found that this online alt-right pipeline was entirely fabricated in order to keep the system that ensures the rich stay powerful intact: capitalism. The ones in power fear no one man, but a revolution. Red Scare, communism, socialism, all words and phrases ingrained into American culture as synonyms of the word bad. They want us to fear communists, because that's the only way their system falls. And once the pillars of capitalism fall, what is there left to keep them from falling too? Instead of drinking the Kool-Aid and ending your physical self, you end your mental and spiritual self, replacing it with things that you think have value. How much of it is up to you, or more so up to the media that you consume. Political partisanship, materialism, over-reliance on religious faith. Replacing the uncertainties with things that give false hope. Or things to numb you from the reality that you've tried running from but can't escape. But are any of us living in reality? If it's all been crafted and fallen into place just as they planned, are we all in the simulation? Are we all just puppets to the evil masterminds pulling the strings? Are any of us really living in reality? Donald Trump is hardly removed from the dictators that we fear in North Korea. His circle and his followers embellishing every aspect of their lives to absurd impossibilities. Yeah, North Korea's won the World Cup the last couple of times. Yeah, Donald Trump's vitals were stronger than ever in the midst of his COVID scare. Don't look at these hand bruises. Or these ones. Or his face. Or his swelling fingers. Or his, can I even show this? Everyone in that camp lies. Interpersonally or under oath. But it's not just a simple lie. It's a test. If they cover for each other, no one gets hurt. The more absurd lies people believe, the less they believe the truth. Because in these crafted realities, the truth sounds more absurd than anything. And so, here we are. The mostly full release of the Epstein files. Early days, but pretty high on the list of important American, hell, global political events. And it's all so disturbing. 3 million files. Supposedly half, probably even less. Pictures, videos, emails of some of the most abhorrent things you can imagine. And somehow, it keeps getting worse. Things that sound so absurd that people believe could only be the product of satanic rituals. Not understanding that the real evil has been smiling and waving in their face the whole time, refusing to acknowledge the very real evil side of humankind. Surely it must be the result of the devil. It does a disservice to the victims and is completely ignoring the system that bred it. A new wave of satanic panic. Another buzzword from generations past that means little in the grand scheme anymore. None of it does. The demons that we've been afraid of, have been, and always were in, human form. Snakes tempting us with the forbidden fruit, then biting our hand in retaliation for indulging. Presidents and agencies introducing drugs to the streets, only to turn around and crack down on those same streets. No pun intended. The wealth was supposed to trickle down. Now our jobs have been automated, replaced with a function that actively hinders the user experience. Anything to save a dollar, right? Get rich or die trying. And so, here I lay, surrounded by meaningless pieces of paper. Tax forms, receipts, pay stubs, dollar bills, none of it really matters anymore. If all goes to plan, you'll see this on April 1st, but it's far from a joke. Tax season's here, and it feels worse than ever. I mean, sure, losing money sucks, but it comes and goes. For some, quicker than others. But this year seems grosser than usual. My money's going to the monsters running the country and running the world. This dollar going to the US government is spent on the bullet to kill my neighbor. My brothers, sisters, and siblings in the streets. My yearly tradition of posting a South Park video on April 1st is but a thin veil as I venture into the commentary realm. This was never really about South Park. Neither was last year's. In reality, I'm not too different from these podcasters. I'm afraid. Not afraid of the ever-evolving world, but the perception surrounding me. I don't want to be taken seriously. I cloud myself in self-deprecating jokes and satire so that I can shrug off any criticism that might come my way. I mean, I hold a microphone in my bedroom, and you want to listen to everything that I have to say? Take my worldviews as your own? That wouldn't make me any better than anyone I've criticized in the video so far. As award season rolls around again, celebrities accept their awards for the fantastic work they've done over the last year, bringing their gold-plated and diamond-encrusted soapbox up to the stage and stand behind their podium to say the most basic political commentary. Free Palestine, abolish ICE, release the files. And make no mistake, absolutely. But for the most basic, rudimentary, lukewarm takes, we sing their praises. Taking a stand used to mean something. When the Dixie Chicks, now just known as the Chicks, spoke out against the Bush administration, or when Sinead O'Connor ripped up the photo of the Pope, they were going against the grain, against the status quo. They lost fans, sponsors, and opportunities to stand up for what they thought was the right thing to do. Now celebrities stand before us on stage, or worse, preaching to us on their live streams, talking down to us about whatever the hot topic is, and then retreat back into their million-dollar mansions, none the wiser of the turmoil the real people in their own city face, let alone other countries. And we're expected to applaud them for saying the most basic politically correct thing. Otherwise, they fear being cancelled for, like, a day, until the next celebrity's facade falls, and then the angry mob moves on to them. Posting an Instagram story, changing profile pictures, sending out a tweet, or whatever Elon wanted it to be called, I don't care. It all just seems so artificial. There's real pain, real heartache, and real tragedies in the world. How does this all end? Well, Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, Waco, none of them got the good ending. I'm eagerly awaiting the next election to see how all of this is used to prop up the next wave of the same brand of people. Republicans have no shame, and the Democrats are spineless cowards. My least favorite archetype of politically interested person is the leftist, okay guys, remember, register to vote, we can do this. Sure, there's the racist alt-right people, but at least you see their true side immediately so you can avoid them. Left-leaning people, particularly influencers, seem like they've hopped on the bandwagon and have no idea where it's going, but they're vlogging the whole way there. Why the hell would I look to them to form my own beliefs? The partisan system is flawed, though it seems it never mattered. There's no real left or right in government. Sure, there's some left-leaning and right-leaning people, but they run on fear tactics from a more extreme side than they truly sit on. It was created to divide us. A country claimed to be united under God, though history shows it's been anything but. We've shut the door on refugees seeking the prosperity of the American dream, fleeing war-torn countries as a result of decisions not made by themselves, but by their leaders. And maybe not even them, but something even more powerful. And if we as Americans find ourselves in the same position, can we really expect anything but the same treatment? South Park's magnum opus, bigger, longer, and uncut, is unabashedly an homage to Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, piggybacking off the popularity of the musical that began back in 1980. It's no secret, Parker and Stone are huge theater nerds, a term I use with the utmost of respect. I mean, they even created their own Broadway hit with the Book of Mormon, later surpassing Les Mis en route to becoming a top 5 grossing Broadway musical of all time. One of the finest movie musicals of all time, it effortlessly picks apart how ridiculous war, authoritarians, and censorship is. Catchy instrumentals laced with biting commentary, whose potency has not waned to this day, nearly 30 years since its release. There are outstanding songs aplenty, but my favorite, coincidentally the one that corresponds most to the video, is Tomorrow Night. A powerful song that begins with just one character, gradually adding more to the chorus, expanding even further to include the many branching storylines of the movie. The mothers waging war in Canada, the fathers in the military, the children left confused, Satan getting his Disney Princess I Want song to escape the clutches of Saddam Hussein, a red flag proudly displayed across the screen. This is One Day More from Les Miserables. Perhaps the most famous song spawned from Hugo's work, Hugo's life. It's a web of polyphonic structure, Jean Valjean's opening plans to escape town weaving in between Marius and Cosette's ballad. Eponine's sorrow, Enjolras and the passion of the revolutionaries, it's all here. And as they head into the unknown of tomorrow night, much like we are now. A crescendo of not just 30 years, not 100 or even 1,000 years worth of history, tyranny, oppression, systemic failures, injustice, and lies has led us to this moment. Hundreds of millions of years of running, the thought of getting the hell out of here persisting through history, centuries of trying to create new realities to escape the ones created by some Joe Schmo know-nothings. We've nowhere left to run, so what is the only option left? A revolution.
Ideals too easily give way to dogma. Dogma becomes fanaticism. In the end, only we ourselves can guard against our obsessions. Only we can decide whether the road we walk carries too high a toll. We believe ourselves redeemers, avengers, saviors. We make war on those who oppose us, and they in turn make war on us. We dream of leaving our stamp upon the world, even as we give our lives in a conflict that will be recorded in no history book. All that we do All that we are begins and ends with ourselves.
Hi everyone. I just want to thank you for watching. It really does mean a lot that you've made it even this far in the video. Just got some general housekeeping things to do. Couple updates, nothing too special. Number one, last year's video, everyone thought I was AI because this is just how I sound. Obviously, you saw the disclaimer at the beginning. I'm not using AI for any of this. So instead, I'm going to drink an entire glass of water to replace whatever AI would have used and just talk to you. So. Again, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed even a second of it, I'd really appreciate a like, subscribe, comment, you know, YouTube stuff. I don't even know if that helps, but can't hurt, I guess. I'm a one-man show around here, so I did all the research, writing, production, editing. So anything you can do to help me, of course, I really appreciate it. I think from start to finish, this has taken me a little over a month to do. Let's call it 200-300 hours. So hopefully it was worth it. I really like how it came out, so that's all I really need. I do really like making these documentaries, if you can even call them that. They just take a lot of time to make. I am going to start making more video essay type things, but while I work on those in the background, you'll probably see some more lighthearted, more fun videos. If you have the means to, and you want to help support me even further, hit up the Patreon. I have the link below or in the card above, somewhere. For as low as $1, you can help support me and get your name on here with everybody else. I appreciate them so much. If not, that's totally fine. There's a free tier over there. You're not missing too much. But if you do, you get some sneak peek behind the scenes of the videos. You can help me pick new ideas and see the new videos a couple weeks early. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to add on here. I don't think so. You'll see the background in a couple videos coming up here. Got some more face cam, I guess. Feels weird being on camera, but we'll get there. It felt weird to talk into the mic for the first time anyways, so we're getting there. Okay, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I won't keep you too long. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Have a good one, and bye.